everybody. Welcome back to part 3, where we're going to kind of break down the next section that needs to be worked on here in Limestone for max capacity. Just to give you guys an idea, I went ahead and finished everything here in the first portion. Along with the second portion here, I am still working on epic projects, but wanted to get a jump on the next section, which is going to be this upper quadrant here. The only thing I am still working on really is I need to do one more upgrade here with my casino, only because if we take a look at the coverage here, you see I have decent coverage. I have a couple extra casinos placed. However, what I want to do is get this up to a 40% coverage, because these other casinos have 60%, and that'll maximize my production to make sure I have 100% coverage of casinos in this section. Now, first, what we're going to take a look at, I'm going to do a road upgrade, it looks like. I'm going to have those trickling in, but each section here we're going to take a look at, we're going to start with the regions, the regional requirements here. We have our food market, which has a little bit of an overlap, which doesn't really make a big difference, only because down here in the corner I went with these smaller 2x2s rather than the larger one, only so I could spread them out and give me better spacing, because I didn't quite need as much. However, I did need to have coverage over my whole region, and there's no way else to spread that regional coverage without needing to add additional coverage down here on the end. Looking at the police, you can kind of see how it's broken down there. I have coverage all the way up to the road, so I went ahead and snuck the precinct right in there. Now, the problem with the way that the sizing of the precincts are for the police is I don't get full coverage all the way through my region. As you can kind of see, the end down here is going to be open. A lot of that has to do with, if you take a look at the police, you can kind of see I get up to 2,500 coverage. I get 2,500 coverage with the hospital. Where are my fire stations? And the fire stations, I only get 2,000. So that means I had to add an extra fire station down here on the end, only because the coverage areas for the large deluxe fire stations are only 2,000. I could have got 2,250 out of the grand fire station. I guess I could have went up to 2,500 with Chicago, which I may do down here on the other end. But for right now, as you guys see, I do have full coverage for fire region. Police, I do not. And health, for the most part, I do. So I went ahead and made the decision, rather than having to add an additional service building down here, I went ahead and I just added Omega. Now, with the control net, that means I can use this down here to avoid having to use any kind of fire, police, or hospital. And that means I'm only using one 2x2 building rather than either 3 2x2s or trying to squeeze in a bunch of the 1x1s, which I'm really struggling with in another region. But this will maximize the population down here in this corner, and I'll be able to get, it looks like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, probably close to 15 Omega buildings down here on the end. And by doing so, those are going to require 60 control net and 60 for drones. So it's going to put me close to around 900. So the 1,000 there that I have for coverage is just fine. I don't need to upgrade it any further than that. So that is what I have decided to do for residential. Everything else that I have in here is kind of all the filler when it comes to all of the other specializations, as you see for parks. I went ahead and put a lot of the 1x1 parks that I've been using, the Secura parks, down here on the ends. Where I have the water is where I've set myself up for the future to put bridges when I'm able to do that over Black Friday. However, I needed to put something in here on the road now, just so I had connection for all of my utilities down those roads. But you can kind of see what the plan is going to look like for landscape based on where the water is and where the 2 bridges are that I currently have. Again, looking at education, I did go pretty big on using the Omega University only because of the coverage area I'm getting. Additionally, I don't have the resources to do hotspots at this time, 2x2 hotspots. I have other regions that are going to be done prior to this one. So for the time being, I went ahead and put an Omega University there and the Amsterdam building over here with a 50% coverage. I do believe there's a small overlap here in the middle, which won't really matter much because of everything that I have in the buildings anyways. But I went with the larger buildings for education only because of the larger boosts that are given. Transportation, I went ahead and sprinkled in because I do tend to stick with the heliports only because they're 50% coverage, and with the overlaps, I can primarily get 100% coverage in most of the region. There is no beach here. Entertainment, I don't have a lot of sim cash right now to swap out for the Sims nightclubs, so I went ahead and used the drive-in theater that I have that's 50%. Once I have enough sim cash, I will replace that with 2 entertainment buildings just to make sure that I get the proper boost and coverage. But right now, it's more or less just a filler until I'm able to get some more sim cash there. And then up here, the Mystic Springs with a 50% boost, 20x20, was a nice little extra building that I had available to use. Gambling, as you can see with the casinos there and the spacing, which is big right there. You see there is a big white line down the middle, but because half of the building will be covered, that will be all that I need to cover for the residential building to give me the full coverage. Landmark, same thing with the spacing. As you can see there, I needed to spread these out to make sure that I'm able to get full coverage all the way down the region. Here's a good look at space. Again, one building all the way through the region. And then for Mayor Pass, I went ahead and put a couple other buildings in here just to make sure I had as much boost as possible through the entire region. As you see, 65% boost there is good. 55% boost up here was good. And then all of the rest of the holes here are going to be residential zones. And this should get me pretty close to 4 million by the time that I have completed this. And that is going to be the next step here in our part 3 of Limestone. So appreciate you guys tuning in today. If you guys have any questions, make sure you put them down in the comments. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe to them. And I will be back to you guys in part 4, unless I feel that there's a need for a small update somewhere in the middle. But until next time, guys, happy